right, guys, we are ready for our history for Tuesday, the 12th of May, and it's week 8, and we're going to start on page 220, okay? So make sure you've got that ready. This is a biography, okay? Remember, what is a biography? It's the story of someone's life. Good. Do you remember what an autobiography is? Yeah, that's the story of someone's life, and they wrote it themselves, okay, about themselves. So the character trait that is being highlighted in this biography is responsibility. And the question is, how did Dolores Huerta's responsibility help farm workers? Do you recognize farm workers? You remember someone else who we've read about and learned about who helped farm workers, migrant workers? Yep, Cesar Chavez. And so you're going to be able to see him actually pictured in this little article. So let's go ahead, and if you'll read it together with me, I won't feel so all alone, okay? As a teacher, Dolores Huerta saw her students come to school hungry and needing shoes. She decided she could help her students by helping their parents. Many of them were farm workers from Mexico and did not speak English. Huerta said, "Giving kids clothes and food is one thing, but it's much more important to teach them that other people besides themselves are important." And that's a picture of her. It says Dolores Huerta worked to get better living conditions for farm workers, as well as, of course, Cesar Chavez. You see the pictures above, the caption. Remember, those are the words under a picture or next to a picture. It says Dolores Huerta worked with Cesar Chavez to form the National Farm Workers Association. The National Farm Workers Association. And then you see some actual photographs. And then you see up at the top a little poster. It says posters reminded people to help the farm workers by not buying certain foods. That page, read with me. Dolores Huerta spoke to many people about the way the farm workers were mistreated. She asked the people not to buy certain crops. When the farm owners started losing money, they started listening to her. In 1975, Huerta's work helped pass the Agricultural Labor Relations Act in California. This act gave farm workers the right to ask for more pay and better housing. And then the bio brief, you see a little timeline of important dates. It says in the 1980s, she opens the radio station KUFW to speak for farm workers. In 1984, she's given the Outstanding Labor Leader Award. It looks like she was born in 1930, right? How old would that make her today if she were still alive? 1930. 89 years old. In 1993, she is honored in the National Women's Hall of Fame, and in 1999, she was given the Presidential Eleanor D. Roosevelt Human Rights Award by President Clinton. Okay, next page. This is the story of Johnny Appleseed, if you'll read this with me. It is a legend, right? Legends often start with real people. There was a man named John Chapman, and this is his story, but then they get elaborated, and sometimes things get added that maybe didn't really happen. It said many years ago, when America was a new country, there lived a brave and gentle man named John Chapman. That is true. John loved the outdoors. He would walk for miles in the woods among the trees and the flowers, happy and alone with his thoughts. One day, after a long walk, John sat down under a tree to rest. He felt the warm sun on his back and the fresh grass tickling his toes. John took an apple from his sack and ate it, and when he had finished, he looked in his hand at what was left, just a few brown seeds. And John thought, if one gathered seeds and planted them, our land would soon be filled with apple trees, kind of like our devotion this morning when I talked about spreading seeds of kindness. John Chapman lived on the frontier in Massachusetts, where a country had been settled. where the country had been settled. But every day, pioneers were leaving to travel west, where there were no homes or villages and where the only roads were Indian trails. In their covered wagons, the pioneers made the long and dangerous journey through the wilderness. They wanted to build new lives for themselves in a new part of the country. John Chapman went too, but he did not travel in a covered wagon. He walked in his bare feet. He carried no weapons, as men did in those days, to protect themselves from wild animals and danger. He carried only a large sack on his back, filled with apple seeds, and his cooking pan on his head. He must have been quite a sight, huh? As he walked, John planted seeds. He gave a small bagful to everyone he saw. Soon everyone who knew him called him Johnny Appleseed. And we credit him for planting or getting started so many apple trees as he traveled west to fill with apple trees. Okay, so the next page is talking about an abalone farm. Not all farms take place on ground, right? On fields and dirt. This one is actually in the ocean. Let's read that. Visitors to the U.S. abalone farm can see, and you see the map of California, that is right there in our area, in the Bay Area, right? Growing a special kind of food. Abalone are mollusks. They're water animals with a hard outer shell instead of a skeleton. At the farm, the abalone begin as microscopic animals. The farmers sell the abalone to markets where they have grown to be about 4 inches long. People can then buy them to use them as food. And then you see that picture. It says the United States Abalone Farm is on Davenport Landing Beach. This location lets the farmers pump in the salt water that the abalone need to grow because their natural habitat would be the sea or the ocean. Top of the next page says the farmers keep the abalone in saltwater tanks. The young feed on algae. After about 6 months, the farmers move the abalone to different tanks where they feed them fresh kelp. So these ones are being raised on a farm as opposed to growing up in the ocean. It takes 4 or 5 years for an abalone to be big enough for the farmers to sell them to markets. Next page. I used to go abalone fishing with a friend whose dad and brothers would go out into the ocean in scuba gear, and it was kind of a dangerous proposition, and they're very hard to pry off the rocks, but properly cooked they are delicious. Okay, so go to the next page, 228. We're not going to do the graphic organizer. We are going to go right to 229 and see if we can complete these sentences as a form of review, as a little review test for the chapter. It says food from the farm is turned into a at the processing plant. Turned into a natural resource, a crop, technology, product, or raw materials. You take the food from the farm, you turn it into what at the processing plant? You turn it into a product, right? Because it already is a raw material. New such as tools and machines help farmers grow more crops. New technology, you're right. Oranges are that are used to make other products. So oranges are the raw materials that are used to make orange juice, other products. Water is an important what that some people use to make electricity. Water is an important natural resource. Good. Wheat is a kind of crop. You got it. How can people use air as a natural resource? Well, they use wind, don't they? They can use wind to bring power to their homes. What did a pioneer farmer do in the fall? They planted in the spring, and in the fall, when everything was grown, they harvested. That's right. How do some farmers bring water to crops? Well, nowadays they use pipes and sprinklers. They have different forms of irrigation, but usually pipes and sprinklers to bring water to their crops. Where are oranges turned into orange juice? At a farm, in your home, at a processing plant, or at a market? They would be turned into orange juice at a processing plant, right? Who did Cesar Chavez help? Migrant workers, farmers, orange growers, or distributors? He helped the migrant workers, the ones that were going from farm to farm, picking crops, right? All right, so go to page 230. Number 11 says, why do different places use their natural resources in different ways? Well, it would make sense that one place may not have as much of a natural resource as another place. How about climate? Climate's different from place to place, and that would affect how natural resources would be used. Number 12, what would happen if no one recycled or conserved their resources in your community? What might happen? We could use up all of our resources, right? What does this map show? We'll read the title. What does it say? California food crops. That tells you right at the top what this map is about. California food crops. Number 14, what products are shown on the map? Well, go ahead and read them. Tomatoes, strawberries, avocados, grapes, walnuts, and lemons. And it shows you what parts of California are known for growing those crops. Number 15, which food crops are grown in the southern part? I live down there. We had plenty of this. Go all the way down to the bottom and you see avocados and lemons. And nothing like lemon juice squeezed on avocado. That tastes good. And number 16, where in California are tomatoes found? Look for the tomatoes. They're found in the central part, aren't they? Right about in the middle. On page 231, that is called a what? A flow chart. You're right. And what is the title of this flow chart? Recycling. All right. Number 1, what happens? The items are washed. Number 2, the items are sorted into bins. Number 3, the bins are put on the curb. And number 4, the items are taken away. And you guys have learned about recycling, haven't you? And we have answered everything except, nope, we've answered every question there. Alrighty, and so that pretty much ends that particular chapter. The next one, we're going to be learning about people in the marketplace, and you're going to learn about producers and consumers largely. You're going to be learning about trading goods with other countries. So that will take care of that for now. So we are pretty much done today. Okay, guys, thank you for doing such a great job today, paying such good attention, reading with me, writing, answering questions, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.